Last year I spoke about the rise of Hercsploitation. That is, all the TV shows that were made in the wake of the mega popular series Hercules: The Legendary Journeys. I listed a bunch of these, and now here's a few more. The New Adventures of Robin Hood. To my understanding, the character of Robin Hood was created back in the 1370s, so yes, he's been around for a long time. The character's been in a variety of books, TV shows, and movies, but the New Adventures of Robin Hood is indeed different from those. Why? Well, much like Sinbad, due to the success of Hercules, they took an existing IP and molded it to follow the Hercules formula. That is, they implemented more fantasy elements and made it lighthearted. Not that Robin Hood needs to be dark and edgy or anything like that one from 2018 proved. Although I am morbidly curious to see if the futuristic Robin Hood 2058 ever happens. It's supposed to start filming in February, starring Hugh Jackman, but it's been in development hell for a long time. Anyway, the character of Robin Hood, out of all of these IPs, feels like it would fit this tone the best, along with Hercules and Xena. The show premiered on January 13th, 1997 on TNT. The series followed the adventures of Robin Hood and his band of merry men. All your favorites are there. Little John, Maid Marian, Friar Tuck, and so on. The show starred Matthew Perretta as Robin Hood. Just a few years before this, in 1993, he was Will Scarlet in Robin Hood Men in Tights. An interesting tie-in. They also had Warwick Davis playing the role of Big John. The New Adventures of Robin Hood was a success, going for 4 seasons with 52 episodes. Seasons 1 and 2 were on TNT, and then seasons 3 and 4 were in syndication. The last episode aired sometime in 1999. It was canceled due to dwindling ratings and the show just running its course. The show was released on DVD, but it was burn on demand, and it was only for season 1. None of the other seasons were officially released. In an interesting twist, the entire series has been uploaded to YouTube on Matthew Perretta's YouTube channel. It's pretty awesome. The episodes I saw were about DVD quality, so definitely give them a look. Roar! When I spoke about Hercsploitation last time, I had a ton of comments saying that they wanted Roar. So here it is. Roar is a fantasy adventure series that I was expecting to be more like the Beastmaster, but despite the title, it's not. The series was created by former heartthrob Sean Cassidy. After working on shows like The Hardy Boy Mysteries and General Hospital, he moved into the role of producer. First show he made was American Gothic in 1995. Seeing the success of Hercules and Xena, he wanted to create a show that was in a similar vein, and the end result was Roar. This was a co-production between the US and Australia. The series was about an orphan prince who must reunite his people to fight for their freedom over the tyrannical Longinus and the evil sorcerer queen Diana. The prince, Connor, works to unite the Celtic clans under one banner to drive the evil Romans out and take back Ireland. The star of the show was the then unknown Heath Ledger. He started acting all the way back in 1991 with an uncredited role in the TV movie Clowning Around. He was then in some Australian TV shows like Sweat, until doing 2 movies, Black Rock and Pause. He got a job to work on Roar shortly thereafter. Although being Australian, Ledger had to do his best attempt at an Irish accent, as his character of Connor was Irish. The show also starred Lisa Zane, Sebastian Roche, and Vera Farmiga. They had a few other up-and-coming actors as guest stars like Melissa George and Kerry Russell. The show premiered on January 14th, 1997 on Fox. It unfortunately did not go over well. Due to low ratings, the network canceled the show after its 8th episode. The show was syndicated in Australia and the UK. All 13 episodes aired over there. Years later, in 2000, Fox burned off the last few episodes as filler. Apparently, the reason the show did so poorly was because it went up against UPN's juggernaut show, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and it got destroyed in the ratings. The series was released on DVD in 2006. It's out there, but it looks overpriced, going for about $40 for the 13-episode season. It's not available for streaming, but it is on YouTube. Tarzan. Well, they pulled out Robin Hood and Conan, so why not Tarzan? The character of Tarzan was created all the way back in 1912 by Edgar Rice Burroughs. John Clayton II Viscount Greystoke is the son of a British lord and lady who were marooned in Africa. His parents were killed, and a tribe of great apes adopted the child and raised him as one of their own. They named him Tarzan, which in the apes' language means white skin. One thing that set the show apart from many others was that it was actually shot in Africa. They filmed the infamous Sun City in the northwest province of South Africa. Something that was new to the show that made it unlike other Tarzan adaptations was the inclusion of heavy fantasy elements. Sorcerers, magic, alternate worlds, and other fantastical elements were there, so the show was more than just a feral human raised by apes. Tarzan was played by action star Joe Lara. This wasn't the first time he played Tarzan. He was the character back in the 1989 made-for-TV movie, Tarzan in Manhattan. The cast also included a pre-Wishmaster Andrew Devoff and female bodybuilding champion Corey Everson. She previously had a recurring role in Hercules as Atalanta. The show premiered on August 28, 1996 in first-run syndication. This series lasted for one season with 22 episodes. The last episode aired on May 25, 1997. There was a second season planned, but actor Joe Lara dropped out, and the show's distributor, Seagull Entertainment, went bankrupt, so it never happened. Famous fantasy author R.A. Salvatore was hired to write a Tarzan novel based on an early pilot script. The book was published, and it's fairly different from the show. I'm trying to track down a copy because his version sounds really interesting. The series was released on DVD in Region 2. This show is available for streaming on Plex. It's also on YouTube. Legend of the Seeker. This appears to be the most expensive of the Hercsploitation shows. Sam Raimi and his longtime collaborator Rob Tappert created and produced Hercules: The Legendary Journeys with Christian Williams. They collabed again in the mid-2000s on their next program, Legend the Seeker, a show that was based on the fantasy novel series The Sword of Truth by Terry Goodkind. Goodkind was the one who suggested changing the name to Legend the Seeker to differentiate between the show and his books. They planned for each season to be based on each book in the series. Season 1, Wizard's First Rule, Season 2, Stone of Tears, and so on. This was a late entry in the genre, with the first episode airing on November 8, 2008 in syndication. Seeker is much more serious in tone than Hercules or even Xena. With Raimi and Tappert at the helm, they didn't want to just redo what they had already done, which is why they tried to make the show a more serious fantasy tale. The story at its core is about a team of warriors going into a forbidden land to find a wizard and a seeker, two legendary figures who have been prophesized to defeat the evil warlord Rawl. While they tried to keep the spirit of the books alive, they didn't want to do an exact copy, so certain characters were left out and some stories were truncated. Beyond that, they had to make up a bunch of stories that took place in-universe that wasn't in the books. They made sure, however, that they remained faithful to the characters and the overarching story from the novels. The author Terry Goodkind initially was fine with this. He spoke out on his website saying that it was impossible for a TV series to be able to follow his books exactly. However, after the show was out, he made sure to announce that he had no input in the series and that any complaints should be made to Disney ABC. Although he did state that he had faith in the production team. He said, "I trust Raimi and Tappert to at some point be able to exert their immense creative talent and do a great job at bringing to life the characters we all love." The show was largely shot in New Zealand. While the show did grow a passionate fan base, it was just too expensive to continue. With all the visual effects, it cost about $1.5 million per episode. The series ran for 2 seasons with 44 episodes. The last episode aired on May 20th, 2010. They were planning on a 3rd season, but that didn't pan out. ABC Studios was working on a deal with the Sci-Fi Channel, but when that fell through, the series was canceled. The critics were lukewarm on the show, saying that it wasn't as fun as Hercules and Xena. They said it was also too derivative of other bigger properties like The Matrix and Star Wars. Meanwhile, the book series continued. As of currently, there are 27 novels in the Sword of Truth universe, with the most recent one being Into Darkness from June of 2020. Sadly, it looks like this book will be the last in the series, as Goodkind passed away in September of 2022. The show was released on DVD, and it's still available, but it runs about $35 a season. It's not available for streaming, but it is on Amazon Video On Demand. Some random episodes are on YouTube, but not the full series. Young Hercules. Young Hercules is an attempt to bring back the old fans of Hercules the Legendary Journeys and appeal to the younger demographic. Finally, a Hercules for my generation! Young Hercules, as you would suspect, is a prequel to Hercules the Legendary Journeys. Also, like the Legendary Journeys, they launched the show as a pilot movie, which aired on February 17th, 1998. The movie did well, so they worked on a full series, although they had to recast the title role. In the movie, Hercules was played by Ian Bohen. When the show was picked up for a full series, he decided to not take the job, as he didn't want to move to New Zealand where they were filming. So for the series, he was replaced by a relatively unknown Canadian actor, Ryan Gosling. Young Hercules first aired on September 12, 1998 on Fox Kids. Gosling had previously been on an episode of Hercules the Legendary Journeys as the character of Xylus. He was only 17 when he took the role, and it was his largest up to this point. In typical Fox fashion, the show was aired out of order. This screwed up the continuity, as there were times when Hercules would be working with a character, and then would be meeting them for the first time several episodes later. The show never reached the heights of Hercules the Legendary Journeys. Season 1 had 50 episodes, but each one was only about 22 minutes, so it was a much faster show than the other Hercules. It didn't go over well, and it was canceled. The show lasted for one season with 50 episodes, 51 if you count the pilot. The last one aired on May 14th, 1999. Altogether, the show had a budget of about $20 million. This made it about $400,000 per episode. Raimi and Tappert were the executive producers for the show, but it's unclear if they had much involvement in the series beyond putting their names on it. The show was released on DVD, and it's pretty cheap, although the original pilot is sold separately. Young Hercules is available for streaming on the Roku channel. Some clips are on YouTube, but not the full series. If you want to see the bonus 6th entry, please consider joining my Patreon. The $6 tier will get you bonus content, while higher tiers are able to vote on what will appear in future episodes. For this episode, one of these four won as the bonus entry. They've already voted on this episode, obviously, but if you want to be there for future entries, please consider joining. Also, if you join now, you'll be able to see any past entries you may have missed. That's enough Hercules for now. I'll see you next time.
Ingrid, you're making a fool of yourself. Robin doesn't need your help. Go home.
You can't bully me.
Now!
Young girls are so excitable at this age.